Fingers crossed. Check one, check. Whoopsies. Check one, check one. Sounds good. Hey everybody, what a day. It's Apollo 13 day here today, folks. Hi, my name is Mike Meyers, and this is the Monday version of Ask Mike Anything. The goal of this live stream is to provide those of us who are studying for CompTIA certifications an opportunity to ask questions and do whatever they need to do. We've been at this now for about a year and a half, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. We get together every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. We're in Houston, Texas, in the good old USA, and we're always glad to have you come on aboard. So, sorry we had a little bit of a slowdown today logging in, but we've got there. Okay, a couple of rules before we get started. Number one, ask me anything. We're going to be talking about routing today, but if you have any questions on any topic, feel free to ask at any time. To do that, just type it into your chat window. Now, you might want to do like me and turn the top chat to live chat, and you also might want to consider popping out the chat window. It works for me, but it's really up to you. We will be giving away free practice questions today and a free CompTIA voucher. So be aware that that is coming, people. So stand by for that. This is going to be a very, very interesting day because what's going to happen today is that you guys are going to get some insight on adult learning theory and some of the tool sets that I use to try to make products that work for people so that they can learn stuff. David Mohan likes my haircut. Thank you, David. Have a little tea here. And yes, guys, it really is tea. What are we going to do? First of all, let me run through. If you have any quick questions, let me see if there's anything off the top. Otherwise, we'll start diving in. Man, I got to tell you guys, if there was ever an episode that you ought to have a pencil and paper around, this would be the one. I'm just looking at, anytime you see me turn this way, I'm actually just checking the chat window, seeing what people are saying. Canada, I believe, at 2:03 p.m. How difficult is A+ if you are new to IT? Or should I go for Network Plus? Please guide a career path. Canada, there's lots of things you can do here. Most people who are getting into technology, IBM PC-based technology, which most computers are today, are going to look towards what I call the Holy Trinity, the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, which for probably 90% of the people starting out in this industry isn't a bad way to go. It is important that you understand that there is no law, there is no standards, there's no history, there's no best practices in terms of what certifications one should take. So you're just hearing my opinion on this, though I would think a lot of people would agree with me. Once you finish those 3 certifications, you need to start making some decisions about what you want to be when you grow up. And in particular, if you're looking for IT security, there's all kinds of IT certifications. If you're looking to become a Microsoft person, there's Microsoft certifications. You want to be a cloud person, there's cloud certifications. But to get started, going with CompTIA A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus, which is interesting when you ask your question. Where did you go? Canada, I believe. If you are new to IT, or should I go for Network Plus? I would never tell anybody, did someone tell you that Network Plus is easier than A+? It's not. It's far more challenging in my opinion. So, guys, you have to understand, my first and foremost goal of existence is to educate people on IT. So when Canada, I believe, you type in something like, should I do A+ or should I go for Net Plus? That tells me that somebody told you, either in person or maybe you read an article that said Network Plus is easier than A+, which I say a poo-poo to. Yeah, so we start here at 2 o'clock, that's Central Standard Time, and we will go till 3 o'clock Central Standard Time or until the questions run out. So I'm just reading Andre. My buddy Andre is here. Hello, everybody. I'm working on a setup with Raspberry Pi as a NAS using Open Media Vault. Unfortunately, the tutorial... My only problem with using a Raspberry Pi as a NAS is that, is the Raspberry Pi actually doing all the storage itself? Because, I mean, Raspberry Pis aren't, in my opinion, famous for being able to store a lot of stuff. I guess you could put a USB external drive on there or something. Sorry. I don't know why, guys. Some of these times whenever I get on, I start yawning. Yes, I'm giving away vouchers today. I'm giving away one CompTIA voucher. I'm giving away one set of practice questions. Sahil Basria, what is the difference between a SOCKS proxy and an HTTP proxy? Wow. Interesting. Oh, I know where you got that from. So Sahil, a proxy is a proxy. We have other episodes. Do a search right here in the Total Seminars channel. And we got wonderful episodes on talking about proxy servers. I don't want to repeat all that. The thing you have to remember is that a proxy server works at the application level. So an HTTP device is going to be acting as a proxy for web pages. What the heck is SOCKS? That's what I used to use back in the old days. Practically, a SOCKS server proxies TCP connections with an arbitrary well, I mean, that speaks volumes right there. I've never used a SOCKS proxy. Yes, I do know that that is a setting. When you go into Internet Options under Windows, you'll see a SOCKS proxy in there. There's also a, well, hell, let's pull it up if we're going to play this game. All right, Internet Options is still in the control panel. That's a good thing to see. Can I make that bigger so you guys can see it? Not easily. So I'm in Internet Properties in my control panel, and I'm trying to find proxy server. I can never remember where that is. Is it under LAN settings, I think? Yeah, okay, I'm going to try to put this on the screen where you guys can see it, but it is small, so let's see what happens here. Let me try to bring it up one more time so I can see it. Okay, so if you take a look right here, I hope this works. So this is a pretty small window, and I can't easily, I don't have any zoom functions here, folks, where I could zoom in. Sorry about that. This is actually a virtual machine here behind us. Is there, no dice. All right, so basically down here it says proxy server, use a proxy server, and it wants to know the address and the port. You see the port's 80, but I can click on advanced here, and you'll see I have HTTP. I can't even read that, and I'm looking at it locally. HTTP, secure FTP, and SOCKS. So port 80, port 443, port 2021, and who knows? This is a classic example of Windows holding on to the technology of your forefathers. So there you go. Again, see, this is one of these very interesting questions, Sahil. It's like, how did you get to the point of asking that question? You know, what went on? So to that end, guys, I do want to mention that we do have a Discord channel. However, there have been some changes, and I don't even know why there have been changes. People start changing things and then they tell me about it after the fact. Theoretically, we no longer have a Discord channel with my buddy Jose Braden as far as I can tell. I guess what's happened here is somebody has made a change without any conversation with me, but I'm hoping that Dave Rush can provide a link to it. There it goes. Okay. All right, so there is a new Discord channel. So I hope everything's okay, and we'll find out. I'm actually pulling up this new Discord channel for the first time right now. So Tolwitz says that our buddy Jose is with us on the new one. Okay, well, I'm sure at some point when it becomes important to someone else, they'll tell me why all these changes were made, but they have been made. Please come over to the Discord channel, folks. It's a great place. We got a lot of good people in there. It's a 24/7 channel, so I don't care if you're in Pakistan or in Philadelphia, we're there for you. In particular, though, you might want to consider coming after a live stream. The reason is very simple, and that is because it's the one time where, oh my goodness, it is going honk, honk, honk. How do I turn down volume here? There we go. But it's a great place. You know, the problem with the AMA is that you can ask me individual questions, which I'll answer. But the reality is that a lot of times you need a two-way communication. And the Discord channel is absolutely fantastic for that. If I'm not on there, there's lots of other great techs. Many who I would consider to be better techs than myself are on that Discord channel. I can't recommend it enough. If no one's there to give you an instant answer, just post it. Find the right text channel, post it in there. And if people are around, see if they're on a voice channel, pull out your camera and a mic and say hello. We always love to talk to people. Again, the best time to be on the voice channel is immediately after this. So, is my buddy Alex on? So guys, if you don't know my dear friend from Italy, Alex is a wonderful person and a good tech. Who's been with us now for over a year. And this year, Alex sent me and the gang a box of Italian delicacies. And I can't even imagine how much the tape cost for you to wrap that thing, Alex, because I swear to God, that box had so much tape on it, I saw the word Hindenburg on the side. Oh, the humanity. No, but anyway, it was a beautifully wrapped box, and we got cheese and this sexy Italian sweet kind of bread cake stuff. I don't even know what it's called. I wish Alex had a voice right now because she could tell me what these are all called. And saffron seasoning and olive oil and what else did I name? All kinds of stuff. And Alex, on behalf of me and the crew, thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful holiday gift. It took us a while to get there, and then it took me a while to realize it was even in the office. So I saw that your letter was dated from late November. We have had it for a couple of weeks, and everything was fresh and delicious and perfect. So Alex, thank you for the wonderful, wonderful present. I was going to show you guys some of the present, but we ate most of it. So on it goes. All right. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. Scrolling. Jason Helm, Sahil. I want somebody to try to be describing to me what a SOX is. Yeah, if that's, I'm going to talk about a Jethro server. Hey, Teacher Russell, good to see you again, man. David Mohan, what do you think of Python? I think Python is a great tool for programmers to use to write web apps. Do you think it is good to have the basics down? Yes, David, I can hello world in Python pretty well, despite not being a programmer. I don't think we can use the word programmer unless you are full-time being paid to write apps or operating systems. But in my opinion, everybody must be a programmer to some extent. Certainly being able to maybe do PowerShell, maybe JavaScript, maybe Python, but to have some amount of skill set in some kind of language that will allow you to get stuff done is important. And so I don't consider myself a programmer either, although I can fake it in a lot of different languages. Okay. Wilson Kazwana. Hey, Mike. Hey, Wilson. Esky. I remember Esky. Straight path. You need coffee. I always need coffee. Have a little more tea. Wilson, I'm going to let you deal with all that. Guys, I need some help with sound issues. That is a Discord channel issue. I'll leave it there. I mean, you're welcome to try to get an answer here, although Discord's the place you ought to go. It looks like people are already pointing in the direction. Tom Pinkerton. Hey, Tom Pinkerton. Are you the Tom Pinkerton I know? Do you have a mechanical keyboard? Yes, I do. Your keyboard sounds very clicky. It is very clicky. I'm a big fan of the IBM Model M-type keyboards. I was more of a fan of the mechanical Microsoft Naturals that came out, God, I'm old, 20 years ago? Have they been out that long? Hard to get a hold of anymore. Yeah, again, guys, when I get silent like this, I'm just trying to find questions. The Bearded IT Dad. So Bearded IT Dad, first of all, Bearded IT Dad, congratulations are to you. He doesn't know why I'm about to congratulate him. But anyway, I know you just joined Signal, so welcome aboard. Parmigiano. Alex is like Parmesan. I know what Parmesan is. So what's actually hilarious, so Alex, in part of her gift bag were these little packets of seasoning, and it looks like someone had hand wrote, I assume Alex had written saffron on the side. Saffron is a very expensive and precious spice. I think saffron is like the third most expensive item on Earth. You know what number one is? Last time I looked, plutonium. But it's really, really expensive. Anyway, Alex, I was trying to use my phone on Google Translate, and it just kept saying extra rich or savory or, you know, it said everything but what the heck it was. It was saffron. I don't want to open one. If it's saffron, even opening one would be expensive. And besides, if I got that much saffron, I'm making me, what would I make? Paella. Yeah, something Spanish. Daniel Jones, any tips of studying for the A+? Sure, Daniel, let me throw a couple of things at you. Number one, in my experience, everybody needs three things in order to pass really any certification, but let's concentrate on CompTIA. You're going to need a book, you're going to need videos or instructor-led training, and you're going to need practice questions. You got to have those three things. Can you get away with less? It reduces my confidence, but yeah, you don't have to have any study material. You can just walk in and take the test. Have you scheduled the exam? That's another good thing to do. It takes most people about 220 hours of studying to pass the CompTIA A+ exams, both of them. And, how long would it take you to do 220 hours of studying? Well, if you really want to do it right, take that 220 hours, divide it by whatever, say 10 hours a week, 22 weeks. That's, 5 months in the future. Put your money down and pay for the exam now. And then schedule it for X number of months in the future based on how fast you can go through 220 hours of study. And man, I'll tell you, when you've got that thing coming down the pike at you, you'll hit it hard. Tom, Tom Pinkerton, you're from West Virginia. You are not the gentleman I know, but thank you so much. It's always interesting to see a name that looks familiar. So David Mueller here. So hello, David Mueller. JM, is it possible to add a graphics video card to a laptop that has an integrated video card? Probably not. There have been a few modular systems that have been out there where you can do stuff like that, but generally the answer is 99% of the time the answer is no. Crowbar, there's a name. Mike, if you want to career change to cybersecurity, can you scout CompTIA A+ and go straight to Security Plus and Network Plus, or would that be a bad idea? Crowbar, the right answer is I need to speak to you on the phone for 10 minutes to get to know who you are. Crowbar, jump on the Discord channel, get a camera, and we'll talk. I mean, I don't have to sit here and grill you in front of there's going to be other people on the channel. I don't want to bore them to death. But, you know, the A+, Net+, Security Plus provides a good corner base of knowledge before people like Microsoft try to teach you the Microsoft way, Cisco tries to teach you the Cisco way, Amazon tries to teach you the Amazon way. Get the idea? To do all that stuff. Because CompTIA is vendor neutral, I'm a big believer in the A+, Net+, Security Plus. Can you skip all this? You sure can. You absolutely can. In fact, I would find that a lot of people who could, at least in a technical interview, show some amount of competency, that you don't need any certifications to get into IT security. The only thing a certification does is it gets you ready for your next job. So if you're looking for another job like in security, and let's just say you've got a lot of base knowledge, you can dismantle TCP/IP in your sleep, you can subnet WAC26 in your mind without even thinking about it. That being the case, yeah, you know, maybe just take a Security Plus. But I don't know you. You know. See, again, this is where me as an adult learning theory person wants to talk to you, Crowbar. It's like, where did you get information that would tell you you could do that? Is this your own speculation? Again, guys, these are academic curiosities. I'm not picking on anybody individually. I'm just fascinated by this stuff. Emmanuel Rios, when the 1001 and 1002 sexpire? Emmanuel Rios. Nobody knows yet. There has been no official announcement. I would guess and say the end of this summer coming up. But again, nobody knows. PC Gamer Chris, hey man, why is the maximum number of port numbers very similar to maximum number of computers that be connected to a Class B IP address? Just a coincidence? No, it's not just a coincidence. It's because computers allocate binary stuff to different kinds of jobs. All right, so like for example, you might reserve a certain amount of RAM for certain things, or you might have address buses of fixed size. The bottom line is that we're always messing with buses and storage areas and all this that store binary values. So if something stores just 1 bit, it's 2 to the 1th power, right? Which is 2 different things. It could be 0 or it could be 1. If it's 2 to the 2nd power, it's going to be 0001 1011. It's going to be 4 different things. If it's 2 to the 3rd power, it's going to be 8. You want me to keep going here? It's not so much a coincidence as it is a convention of IT that we use. Base 4, base 8, base 16, base 32, base 64, base 128, base 250. It just depends what you're talking about. Base 256, you're never going to see an address bus with 256 bits. They're pretty much all 64 bits, 64-bit processing. But if you're using a SHA hash, you're darn tootin' you'll see a 256-bit value in there. So everything's different, but all of computing, whether it's hardware or software, relies on binary storage, binary pathways, binary something, and it's always going to be 2 to the x power. So that's why you get things like 65,536, which is 2 to the 16th power. So that means your computer reserves 16 bits to store those values. So that's where that stuff comes from. 16 to the 16th. Actually, it gets so paranoid. Calculator. 2. Scientific. Hell with it. Makes me inside. I'm pretty sure I'm right. BD Vasquez at 223. How do you know when you're ready to take an exam? Well, that's where practice questions come into play, BD. Without practice questions, you're in trouble. Lots of people provide practice questions. I think that Total Seminars practice questions are some of the best that are out there today. I think we're the cheapest and the best. And today, so we usually have some kind of special offers, BD. Like, for example, we normally have discounted vouchers, discounted book and practice questions together. I don't have any information on that. If somebody in my team does, they'll put it there in the chat window, but I'm kind of out of the loop on that. Anyway, it's a 50% off a combined ebook and practice questions. We have lots of ebooks, lots of practice questions, A+, Net+, Security+, plus many more. And hopefully, there we go. Dave Rush put that in there. AMA special deals, 50% off of any combination ebook total tester. A+, Net+, Security+, CYSA, Pentest Plus, and AWS SAA. So what you got to do is go over to my website, www.totalsem.com, head over to the merchant area, pick an ebook, pick equivalent practice questions. So if you get an A+ ebook, make sure you get A+ practice questions. And then on checkout, all you have to do is type in the word Bulldog, BULLDOG at checkout, and you get half off. So it's a ridiculously good deal. So you basically get a free book out of the deal. Hard to beat. Well, I'm hoping we can get to some router stuff today, but I'm seeing we get a lot of questions. Rob Bar Boyden, can you please explain to me the difference between bootrec/fixm? Oh, look at you. Bootrec/re. Okay. So what you're doing here, Rob Barr, this is around 224, because you also have a follow-up question that's, can you explain the difference between boot manager, boot configuration database, and NT loader? Woo! You're just asking a whole lot of questions there. You know what we're going to do? I've got a few more days, it's not going to be till next week. I'm done with routing. But once I'm done, we're probably due to talk about a Windows boot process kind of episode. Let me write that down. So, Rob Barr, what I'm going to do for you is we're going to do a discussion of the Windows boot process. The problem we have here is the way you're asking the question shows me that you're very new to this, which is good, which is why you're supposed to be here. Welcome. But the way you're combining things, I think I would just make confusion unless we talked very carefully about, classic MBR versus GPT and what does that really mean, classic BIOS versus UEFI and how that manifests. And unfortunately, it's already 2:30, and I haven't even started my discussion about routing today. So, Rob Barr, please bear with me. I have written it down that I am going to be doing that, and we will have, but let me finish the routing. We're going to need today, we're going to need next Wednesday, and we're going to probably need Monday of next week before we're done with routing. And sorry about that, but let me hold on to it. It's an excellent question. I'm 16 years old. I can't read Arabic. I'm sorry. I'm 16 years old and I'm interested in computers and stuff. What's your advice for me? My advice for you is to find out what your schools offer in terms of technology. I don't know where you live or what you do. If you were here in the United States, I could easily say to you pretty much every school for people who are 60 years old has some facility to help garner your interest into something more practical. Many people your age do look towards certification. In particular, CompTIA A+ and Network Plus are, for most people, a very much, CompTIA A+ is the most entry-level certification there is. I think you would find, take advantage of what's in your schools and such and see where it comes from there. Patricia Hayes, stem from the fact that I signed up for one of those boot camp classes that helps you get ready for Security Plus exam. I'm having some buyer's remorse. I have some questions. Feel free to ask, Patricia. So feel free to ask any old time you want. Or Patricia, feel free to ask in the Discord channel as well, anytime you want. Somali. Interesting. What is the difference between a boot sector and a rootkit virus? Okay, let's try that one. That's not a bad place to start. Boot sector viruses are horribly, horribly obsolete. Because anything that's sitting directly in your boot sector is too easily caught. And they've been obsolete for decades. A rootkit virus, rootkit is not as obvious as the thing you would think. Rootkit basically means to hide something within the boot such that the operating system comes up and it's already there. And there's a lot of different ways that can happen. So that's all a rootkit is. A boot sector virus is a virus that sits directly in your boot sector, traditionally makes another boot sector, makes a copy of your boot sector, puts that to the side, then takes your actual boot sector area, messes with it, and makes you point to another place. And I don't see them anymore. I'm sure someone will get on and say, oh, I get them all the time. Not me. All right. Rahabar, if an application crashes, what should be the first steps we should take? Should we clear the app's cache or should we uninstall and reinstall the app? Wow. Rahabar, where are you getting these types of questions from? First of all, what do you mean an app's cache? So I think what you're talking about is smart operating systems like Android or Apple, which do all have app caches, which is absolutely true. But let me ask, so let's repaint your question. If an Android application crashes, what would be the first step we should take? Should we clear the app's cache or should we uninstall and reinstall the app? Clearing the app's cache on an Android is rarely a bad idea. Although for certain systems, they will aggressively take advantage of that cache. So again, uninstall and reinstall the app. The downside to uninstalling and reinstalling an app in most cases is because the app itself sign on. I guess you could reestablish all that. Delete the apps. If you're going to give me those two choices, I would normally not even mess with an app's cache. However, it's easy enough to do on an Android, and I would just do that first. Rahabar, where are you getting these? Are you actually putting, here's what Rahabar is doing. Let me guess. Rahabar has practice questions in front of him. And given the questions he's asking, they're probably not mine. And that's okay too. And he's getting me to answer his practice questions for them. Which again, I'm glad to do that too. It's not a problem. But the problem is, Rahabar, you're kind of machine gunning me with so many questions. If an application crash should be the first step we should take, should we clear? Oh, you're repeating yourself. No, you're not. In troubleshooting, when should we update software and device driver and when should we roll back the app driver? The only time you ever roll back an app or a driver is when you've just installed it and it's not acting well. And then you do a rollback. If you install a driver and then you run it for 3 months and then you're having trouble, it's no longer a valid thing to do, unless you're getting direct instructions from somebody. I have rolled back video card drivers after a couple of months because people found things later than they normally do. In particular with drivers, the only time you roll back is you install it and it doesn't work. Then you roll back. What was the rest of this question? When should we update software and device driver? When? Number one, again, we're going to have to talk about Windows here because you're looking for generic information, which doesn't really work here. It's more about which operating system. So I update software automatically. I update device drivers, I don't know, about once a quarter or so. Or at least I check. As often as you can. Updating software, patching software is important. I know it's Windows Update, but I almost wish you'd say patch. Californium 252. I knew somebody get it. Emmanuel Rios, how can we find you on Discord? I think that people are putting it on there. Yeah, I'm on Discord. I'm Tobar, which is robot backwards. All right, it's 2:36. I don't even know if we're going to get through what we have today. So, guys, I'm going to take a chance here. You know what? First, let's do some practice questions. No, we're going to do our giveaways based on my presentation. This will be fun. So, what we're going to be doing today, guys, is we're going to be talking about. The problem is I believe it was JM who started all this trouble over 2 weeks ago when he asked some basic routing questions. And it's not that I'm unhappy with answering routing questions. It's just that I wanted to show it to JM. If it wasn't you, I apologize. I'm going to pick on you because I like you better than anybody. It ended up that creating demonstration in a live AMA type situation was surprisingly difficult for me to do. So, like if you were sitting here with me, I would traditionally use actual equipment, real equipment, to teach you how to set up routers doing static routing, RIP, OSPF, and BGP. Can't do that on an AMA, guys. Now, if I was doing a video, if I was producing a video where I have a, what I want to say and what cameras and all that I can do too. What I can't do is just sit here and do it in front of you in a live situation. So what I've done, I hope you guys find this interesting because it absolutely fascinates me. Do you guys understand how much time I spent thinking about how to teach technology? I spend hours every day with that in my mind. Can I do this? Can I do that? How do would that make sense to a learner? That type of thing. I do this all the time. And what you're going to be doing for the rest of this episode is you're going to get a little bit of an insight because what we're going to do here together is I needed to come up with a way that I could generate networking labs, in fact, routing labs, but I wanted one that I liked and one that I could use in real time. So with that understanding in mind, let's talk about what I've been doing here for a while. So let's make a networking lab. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. So number one. So while building these routing episodes, I realized it was time for me to start making network test beds for self-study networking labs. But how do we do that? I mean, there's a lot of options here, right? Do you want to use physical computers and equipment? For example, eBay. If you get on eBay, you can find, just do a search for CCNA kit, and get on eBay. And what you're going to run into, let's try that again. Sorry, guys, I didn't realize hadn't switched over. So physical computers and equipment, eBay deals. There's all kinds of deals on eBay for CCNA kits where you can get a bunch of routers and switches. They're probably old and beat up, but they work. We could use Raspberry Pis or any other type of more inexpensive device. The downside with Raspberry Pis is they lack a clear and simple and obvious second network connection. But I mean, that's not that it would stop me. It just adds complexity I don't normally like. And it's expensive to do physical equipment. So what about like these Ubiquity, which if you don't know this name, you need to know it. Ubiquity makes all kinds of nice wireless access points, little routers, switches, stuff like that. And they make them pretty cheap. Now, when I'm talking about cheap, I'm talking about like I can get a four-port router for sub $200 for sure, maybe even sub $100. But the problem is if I'm going to be teaching you routing, I would need at an absolute rock bottom minimum 4 routers. Dynamic routing is pretty boring, folks, unless you have a number of routers where you can watch all the routers automatically update. So I was like, well, let's get back on this. So it ended up, even that was going to get expensive. So what I'm trying to do is, what about simulators? There's wonderful simulators out there. Cisco's Packet Tracer, for example, is great. GNS3, if you haven't used a simulator, they're pretty good. My problem with simulation isn't so much simulation per se. It's that I want to make sure people have some sense of where everything fits. And one of the challenges I've had, especially for people who are just beginning to learn routing and stuff like that, is that when you put them in a simulator, a lot of times they learn the simulation and not what routing means. For example, I use Packet Tracer. I'm trying to use GNS3, although I'm having less success with that. GNS3 is pretty and graphical, though, I'll give it that. Even Packet Tracer has a nice graphical aspect to it. But I just wasn't happy where I was going with these. So what am I going to do? What about virtual machines? Okay, so VirtualBox, very popular virtual machine. In fact, it's even listed in the CompTIA objectives. It's easy to get hosts and local area networks to work in a virtual machine. But are there any routers to use that? You understand, when I'm setting up a virtual machine, I'm installing Ubuntu in a virtual machine, or I'm installing Windows Server in a virtual machine, and then I'm using software within the virtualization, within the hypervisor to connect them together. So now what I want to do here, folks, is I want to do a virtual router. There's nothing built into the more popular hypervisors that I know. I'm sure there's exceptions to this. Like VMware, I'm sure has a built-in software router, VMware. But the challenge I was running into is how do you set up a router inside a virtualization environment? And the answer is actually quite simple. There are tons of they're almost all Linux-based distros that when you fire them up, all they really are is a router. It's a full-blown Linux, but it's only running the routing software. So in order to make that work, well, what do we have that's out there? All right, so I went out, started looking around. So let's go with virtual machines for the win, because I think that's the way to go. So the trick was finding the right virtual router. So I went through a lot of them. Number one, it has to work virtually. It has to work inside a well-known hypervisor. I can find virtual routers that work on Bob's Discount networks and feed store kind of stuff. I don't want that. I use VirtualBox. I was willing to switch to Azure or something like that, but I wanted something that would work in a virtual machine. So I went through a lot of, I wanted something that was free, and it has to support more than 2 virtual router ports. It has to support more than 2 virtual router ports. Now, most of y'all, when you see a router, it has a WAN side and a LAN side, right? Well, those are SOHO, small office, home office routers. They're designed for people's homes. They're designed for coffee shops and small offices. If you really want to understand routing, you got to get past the idea that all routers only have 2 ports, a WAN and a LAN side. And instead, I needed something that could make 4, 5, 6 ports. Because that's what real routers do, man. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. And the problem was, most of the cool virtualized software router software programs only supported 2. Don't worry, I found one. It has to support dynamic routing protocols. OSPF and BGP at a minimum, but if it can support RIP, that's even better. These are dynamic routing protocols. You take 2 routers and you set them up with RIP or OSPF or BGP or whatever, and that sets up a whole level of protocol where they communicate with each other. If one goes down, it could rerouting, all that kind of stuff. That's what dynamic routing protocols are. They're very important. They're on the Network Plus. And so we definitely want to cover those. But let's go down in the gators, as we say. All right. It has to be relatively easy to use. I'm all about a graphical user interface if possible. So if there was some router I could find, but all I could type in were bizarre commands, then what are you going to do? So my wish list knocked out a lot of popular router software. Maybe here's names I bet you've heard of. You ever heard of OpenWRT, PFSense, DD-WRT, or Tomato? You really should know about these names. In particular, DD-WRT, OpenWRT, Tomato. These are often looked at as what they call firmware updates. So if you got a home router, and you want to give it extra capabilities, you can literally flash the firmware on that router, and all of a sudden the default screen when you open up the web browser to configure it changes completely. These types of software add tremendous power to existing routers. They are a little dangerous to use. If you just spent $300 on a router and then you start trying to flash the BIOS with a copy of OpenWRT and you turn your router into an ashtray, that's not a good thing, but it does happen. All right. But what you also, with these firmware updates, they have software versions where you have like a generalized router and you can install on top of these. The problem was almost all of those only allowed us to have 2 ports, which stunk. All right. But I did find one. It's called OPNSense. Oh my goodness, what a powerful tool. OPNSense is good. So here's a picture of OPNSense, and yeah, it's pretty. So OPNSense is routing software, and it's built on a free BSD distro. That means I can download a copy of Opensense, just like I download a copy of Ubuntu Desktop or Windows 11 or whatever it is, and put it into a virtual machine. I can do the same thing with Opensense. Plus, Opensense theoretically supports more than 2 ports, which I've already tested. I spent a lot of time yesterday. What did you do on your Sunday? I played with router software. But it also will do more than that. The caveat here is I haven't yet configured dynamic routing, but other people have. In other words, I haven't actually successfully got RIP or OSPF or BGP working on OPNSense, but I'm pretty comfortable. There was lots of tutorials online on how to do it, so I think this looks really good. It plays well with VirtualBox, which is what I want to use. And it's the least complex. It's surprisingly straightforward to use. Not perfect, but pretty good. And it has a web interface, so whatever machine I want to use as a host, a Ubuntu system or a Windows system, I can just open up a web browser and start configuring. Okay, so what hypervisor? I got to tell you folks, I like VirtualBox. It's free, it's very stable, it's extremely well supported, and it easily supports multiple virtual LANs. In order to show you guys how to do routing, we're going to have to create 2 networks, 2 network IDs. Watch earlier episodes when we talk about this. And then we're going to have to use this virtual router to connect these 2 virtual networks. Now, pretty much all hypervisors out there support multiple virtualized networks. In fact, if there was any reason for me to go to Azure actually does this graphically. It's done in a kind of a pretty way. So in order to make a local area network, you have to make a virtual switch, if you think about that. And in Azure, it actually shows you a physical switch, and you have 2 virtual machines, and you're like, oh, connect it to that switch, which was kind of cool. VirtualBox is not quite that elegant, but it does it in a different way that makes it palatable. Oh, and obviously, VirtualBox has to work with Opensense, and I found plenty of online tutorials that saying how to install an Opensense virtual machine in VirtualBox. And the other thing about VirtualBox is I know it really well, so I'm comfortable with it. All right, so let's talk about our networking lab then. So we're going to know a Windows system. The Windows system, which is actually going to be the host of your hypervisor, it needs at least 32 gigs of RAM, and 64 gigs is even better. And every virtual machine takes up to 30 gigabytes each. So like if you have 10 virtual machines, you're going to need 300 gigabytes of hard drive space just to store all your virtual machines. So you want to plan accordingly. Look, the one downside to any form of virtualization is every time you start up a virtual machine, it eats some of your real RAM. And that is a problem. That's not a problem, you just have to have a lot of RAM to make this work. So for example, if we're going to set up a networking lab that consists of 2 networks and one router, all virtualized, we're going to have to set up at least 3 systems. I'm going to set up one system that's going to be sitting in network 1. I'm going to set up another system that's going to be sitting in network 2. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. Not today. I guess we're going to do it Wednesday. So I can get one computer. I'd say I'll put a Windows. It doesn't matter. Put one Windows machine in one network. Put another Windows. Forget Ubuntu. Let's just say you do it with Windows. That's fine. Put them each in their own network. And then we have to fire up the OpenSense router, which means we're going to be using a good chunk of RAM, even in the most simple configuration. So that's why I'm telling people, I haven't had a chance to talk about optimization of any of these labs yet, so all my numbers are a little on the big side. With a little practice, I might be able to bring this down, but not at this point in the game. So if you've got 16 gig of RAM on your machine you want to try to do this on, I mean, go for it, but be prepared for trouble. And by the way, if you have less than 16, I don't think you should even bother trying this. All right, where are we up to? All right, so obviously you're going to need an internet connection. Technically you don't need an interconnection, but what it is you're going to have to be downloading a lot of software, so you might as well have the internet connection. Also, certain pieces of software need to be updated, and in order to do certain things, so you're still going to need that internet connection. But for the actual labs, you don't need an internet connection. So we're going to need VirtualBox. We're going to need to download a copy of VirtualBox, download a copy of Opensense, download a copy of Ubuntu Desktop, and download a copy of Windows whatever, Windows 7. It doesn't matter to me what version of Windows you use. They all work pretty much the same. Time for a quick sidebar. Number 1, many of these downloads are compressed with Unixy types of compressions like BZ2, TAR, gzips, all these different kind of Unixy compressions. And because I'm a Windows guy, that can cause me trouble. So I needed a Windows tool that could do decompression of these Unixy compressions. I've used stuff like 7-zip, WinZip. None of them do all the compressions well, but I have stumbled into something called Easy 7-zip. I don't change my compression software very often, but I'm changing. Easy 7-zip. Here's the download link for it. What a wonderful tool. It absolutely does an amazing job. Okay, let me get back to routing. Sorry about that. You might want to get a copy of this Easy 7. By the way, we're putting all these links into the details, the description, so you don't have to try to copy that down. All right, so let's start with VirtualBox. For the record, everything I've done here was tested on VirtualBox 6.1.30, okay? So it should work, but this video is going to stay up for a while, so I want to make sure people know how these things work. All right, so here's the VirtualBox link. So there's 2 things you've got to download. Number 1, download the VirtualBox 6.x platform packages. That's what they call it. And then secondly, download the VirtualBox 6.x VM VirtualBox extension pack. The extension pack does a lot of really important things, and I'm not positive we're going to need it for this, but let's just get it in there anyway. The extension pack, for example, allows you to use USB thumb drives that in your virtual machine. You take a thumb drive, plug it in, and instead of your host machine grabbing it, VirtualBox does. So lots of things like that. So you definitely want to go ahead and take the time and grab the there we go. Let's go back. And then be sure to grab both of those. Then last there's nothing really special about installing VirtualBox. Just use the default installations and you're going to be fine. Okay, so we're also going to download Ubuntu Desktop. One more time, folks. In order to show that routing is successful, how do you do that? Well, you show that routing is successful because you can ping the other machine because it has a route to it. 90% of diagnostics on routing is just running ping. Lots of ping. I mean, if you want to, one of the things I also like to do is if you have a Windows system that you've downloaded, all versions of Windows can trivially install a web server, the IIS, the Internet Information Server. And it's a great tool to have in a Windows system because instead of just being able to ping it, you can actually open up a web browser and then you can go in and see if that web page, the default web page, the under construction web page shows up. And it's just a great way to go, I am definitely connected to that machine over there. That's why we have hosts in these lab, folks. So you can ping, run an ipconfig, double checking your IP addresses, ping, ipconfig, and then being able to access them some way, preferably like through a web server or something like that. Look, you don't have to use a web server, all right? If you got Windows 11, you've got a built-in SSH server. Maybe you want to use that. But guys, if you've got one computer in this network and one computer in that network, and you've set up all these routers and you want to test your routing, how are you going to do it? You're going to ping, ping. It's 90% of the battle. Ping. Yeah. I know it's not exciting. People don't like that. Because what happens to folks is they're going to sit there and go, you mean in order for me to verify that I have configured an OSPF area properly, don't worry, you're going to know about OSPF. That just means I can just ping two machines? Yeah, pretty much. That's it. Because people expect, like, if you do something really cool in IT, you're expecting, like, this $5 bill to come rolling out of a, port. There's no more ports left. No more floppy ports, no more optical media. So you expect a $5 bill to come sliding out of a USB port. Well, that's just not how it is, folks. Most of the time, when you do something good in IT, you know how you know you've done something good? Because Google works. So I've got a friend of mine, they're like, oh man, Mike, see, I went through and, and I configured this router and I set up this and I, DHCP and da-da-da. I get this all working. How do I know it's working? Well, because you can open up a browser and you can get to Google. That's your proof. I mean, what if you had somebody who was coming in and they wanted to, someone who came to your house and repaired your washing machine for your clothes, okay? They fixed the ice machine on your refrigerator. Boy, did I just come off American there or what? What do you mean you folks don't have ice machines on your refrigerators? It's a very American thing. So that guy comes in and he fixes your ice machine. And the guy sits here and starts, wow, I did a 3/4 inch dagger wrench, filter pressure, just pipe, just talking on and on about how he fixed your ice machine. Do you really care? You just want ice, right? You just want ice. When I press that paddle, I want ice cubes to fall into my glass. That's how I know it's done. It's the same thing in IT. You might have gone through all this pain and suffering to configure routers, switches, wireless networks, whatever it might be. And because you did that, you want someone to pat you on the back. The problem is the person you fix it has no idea what the hell you're talking about. And they just want to sit there and go, Google. You know what I mean? This is a very frustrating aspect to being an IT person. Sometimes people don't appreciate what they do. They appreciate it when it doesn't work. Boy, you want to see people lose their, the internet's down. No, the internet isn't down. It's working great. It's just that your connection to the internet's down. But yeah, it's just how it is, guys. It's just nature of the beast. So that's why look, if you don't want to use a Windows host, don't use one. Use nothing but Ubuntu desktops, but you're going to need more than one, okay? Luckily, VirtualBox has a nice cloning feature, which we're going to talk about. I like to use a Windows machine and an Ubuntu machine. The reason I do that is mainly because it helps me stay in practice. Because I'm very much a Windows person, and I need to be working on Linux more. So by having a Ubuntu desktop and a Windows, probably going to be a Windows 11, it's just good practice for me to go back and forth. But really, you don't need them. You just, okay. I'll stop. Back to all right. So everything we're going to be doing here is tested on Ubuntu 20.04.3 long-term service version. I make a single Ubuntu host for the network labs, and then we're going to use the VirtualBox clone features to make more. Folks, this is important. The first Ubuntu desktop and the first Windows system that you install we're going to give them some name like master, right? Or something like that. Because what we're going to do is we're going to keep cloning copies and using them for each lab as it comes up. And then once we're done with them, we delete them. So here's where you download Ubuntu Desktop. You don't need Ubuntu Server or any of that. And what you need to do is download the Ubuntu Desktop ISO. We need ISO images. I'm hoping you guys know what an ISO image is. So Ubuntu does have pre-made virtual machines for VirtualBox, and one of these days I might try them, but I haven't done it yet. I also got a lot of pressure from people. They're like, well, Mike, just put all this up on the cloud. And I kind of played with that a little bit, but I was unhappy. Cloud configuration doesn't put you in the middle of the network. I mean, it's all there and all the steps are there. That's not it. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to see like Ubuntu and Windows up on one machine in two windows, and then in a third window, I want to see my router, and I want to be able to click between the two. That's hard to do in most cloud-based things in that physical way that I think is helpful for instruction. Okay, anyway, back to Windows. So Windows version, it doesn't matter. You can download you can still download Windows 7 from Microsoft if you want. So we're going to make a single Windows host. Whoops. We're going to make a single Windows host, and then again, we'll clone them to make more. All right, so here's the link for that. And again, all these are listed at the in the description of this episode. And then do keep in mind that these are demo versions, so they have limited time. So what you want to do is find some Microsoft product keys. Any product key from Windows 7 on seems to work. So go on eBay and find somebody who's selling a bunch of Windows 7 for $10 each. It does not make sense to me that you would go and pay, what is it, $120 for Windows Professional right now. That wouldn't make sense to me. There's so many things, like eBay is one example, but there's all kinds of other stuff too. For example, do you have any installation media laying around? Even a Windows 7 installation media, okay? The idea of paying full price for Microsoft Windows operating system, particularly in a lab like this, it's just silly. Using eBay to get heavily discounted versions of this. Finding people with old computers. Somebody's got an old copy of Windows 7 laying around. You just want to get that product key off there. Worst comes to worst, if you got a second machine laying around, copy the product key off there and do these installations. Even Microsoft, I'm pretty guarantee you, I can't promise this, but even Microsoft doesn't care. If you are so into Windows that you're using it as a training tool, that's going to tell Microsoft for the next 40 years you're going to be a Windows nut. I'm walking proof. And I've never heard of Microsoft getting on anybody for using gray area systems as a way to just practice. I mean, if you kept them as full-time systems, I might see that, but that's my opinion. All right, let's go to Opensense. So what we're going to do is make a single Opensense router for the network labs. We're then going to use a virtual clone to make more. And here's the link for Opensense where to download it. So you want to be sure to download a VGA image type with AMD 64 architecture and use any mirror you want. Get to the page, get to that download page where I showed you, and everything I just said there will make complete and total sense. Okay? Now, I just need to warn you that I'm still having problems installing Opensense permanently. The default install just makes a live CD install, and that is still to be fixed. But it doesn't hurt anything. It's just that I will never shut off my Opensense router because I've got it pretty well configured. And between labs, I wouldn't reboot it. In a way, I kind of like the fact, so I'm basically doing a live CD in a virtual machine, and I'll figure it out. I'm making some small mistake. There's two versions to download. There's a VGA version, which I described, and then there's a DVD. It looks like the VGA version is the way to go, but I'm still testing that a little bit. Okay. So one thing I do need to warn you about is every Opensense VM router needs 2 gigs of RAM. You've been warned. Well, the problem is people run into is you sit there and go, well, it's just a router. How much RAM does it need? And you could probably get away with 1 gig for a lab. Remember, you're going to be making a virtual machine, and you're going to have to set up how much RAM it uses. And when you say I want 2 gigs of RAM, it uses all 2 gigs. And again, I got 64 gigs of RAM on here. I got RAM to spare. You may not. So it's something you want to think about. I mean, we can come up with some pretty complicated labs where I've got 4 virtual routers running and then put those in 4 networks, or have one side of each router connect to a network. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 VMs running, and then 4 more VMs for the routers. That's 8 VMs on my system. That's going to be north of 20 gigabytes of RAM. Again, I got 64, I can afford it. So things to be considering. All right, so the goal here is to create a series of routing labs based on VirtualBox to support virtual LANs. Please don't confuse that with VLANs, it's a different animal. Here when I'm saying virtual LANs, I'm saying that within VirtualBox, it can create a broadcast domain and you can set a network ID to it and everything, okay? It's not a VLAN though. VLAN's a completely different animal. I apologize that VirtualBox decided to use similar nomenclature. And then we're going to use Ubuntu and or Windows hosts to access the virtual routers and act as endpoints for the virtual LANs. Oopsies. That's good. I'll tell you what, let's just leave it right there. All right. So the first thing I want you guys to do is take a look at the description for this video, and Dave Rush has put all these links on here. I need you guys, preferably by Wednesday, although I'll wait. No, it's got to be, you got 2 days. In 2 days, I want to see you with a machine that's got VirtualBox installed and running. I'm gambling a lot of you guys already do. Secondarily, I need you to download Ubuntu Desktop and or a Windows Desktop. I don't care which one you use. I just need some hosts where you can type ping with an IP address, and I need some hosts where you can try to access another host with something other than ping. So I'm going to be using both Ubuntu and Windows throughout this. So I want you to do that. So wait a minute, we are missing. Nope, we're all there. Okay. And then what we're going to do, it's after 3. God bless, it's been a fast day. We're going to have to cut this off a little short. We still have 2 competitions. I still got stuff to give away. Go ahead and start downloading this stuff. The instructions are here. There's nothing special you have to do about installations. Just install them. Once they're installed and you've got the virtual machines running, I mean, you might want to do stuff like make sure they all have the same password. Like with all my labs, I always use the password TOTAL, T-O-T-A-L. The reason I do that is because I don't want to be messing with passwords when I'm trying to configure networks. So I would never do that in the real world. But let's go for that. All right. I'm just reading, guys. Whenever I go quiet like that, I hope I didn't miss anything. All right, let's go ahead and do some quick competitions real quick, and we're going to go from there. All right? So let us begin. Let me explain a few things about these competitions. We are first going to give away free 90-day access to the practice questions of your choice. That's the first thing we're giving away. The second thing that we're going to be giving away is a CompTIA voucher. This voucher works for any CompTIA exam. It is an international voucher. If CompTIA gives a test in that in country, then the voucher will work. So it has a wonderful international appeal, and we're very appreciative of CompTIA for doing this for us. This is a gift from CompTIA for you guys. So let's go ahead and start by giving away let's give away 90-day access, free practice questions. You guys ready? So here's how you do this. Whoever types the answer on the screen first wins, okay? Now I need to warn you about some things. Don't assume that just because you think you're first, that I'll think you're first, okay? And then number two, you know what, let's do practice questions. I was gonna do something on what we just learned today, but I'll be more fair. I'll be more fair. All right, I'm scrolling around. I don't want to do A+. Sounds like we got a lot of new people in here. So I'm thinking we're going to put up a CompTIA question. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up a question. All right, I've got a good question. This is an A+ question. It has to do with Windows, and it's actually pretty straightforward. You guys ready? Let's go ahead and put up the first question. Again, we are competing for 90-day access to practice questions. I'm going to try to make this big enough for everybody to read it, but if you can't, I'm sorry. Remember, do not type in A, B, C, or D. Type the answer out, or at least enough of the answer that I know what you're talking about. All right? So here we go. Which program is the best choice to use to clear the SSL cache? Is it Internet Explorer, regedit, Windows Update, or Windows Firewall? Folks, this still works beautifully in Windows 11. So don't let anybody fool you here. So you have a choice. A, Internet Explorer, B, regedit, C, Windows Update, or D, Windows Firewall. All right, we got a lot of people typing in answers. Dave Rush, check Teams. So what I'm doing now is I'm giving everybody a minute to answer. I hate computers. All right, so let me pick a winner. So the reason I can't instantly give the answer, folks, is because I don't want to keep giving the same winners the win over and over again. So like my buddy David Mohan, who literally broke the bank and created a new verb to be Mohan, which means you're so good at answering the question so well that I got to cut you off. So I'm typing in some names right now to make sure that they haven't won too much. There's one other one, so bear with me. All right, so while we're waiting to find out who the right answer is, I'm going to look at this, and I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be Internet Explorer. I could be wrong, guys, so A is correct. Internet Explorer. Built into Internet Explorer is something called Internet Options. You can also access Internet Options through the control panel, but either one of those is where you would clear your SSL cache. Okay, I thought I had the winner, but now I saw there was one other person. Sorry, guys. I'll give you guys, so Internet Explorer. Esteban definitely was the winner, but he passed. Mohammed El Abiad. Fine. All right, then Mohammed El Abiad, you are the winner. You typed in just internet, but that, like I said, I want to know enough that you can get there. So Mohammed, you have won. Congratulations to you. Now, Mohammed, in order to claim your prize, you need to send an email to my buddy Dave Rush. Mohammed, in order to claim this prize, you must send an email to daver@total7.com. In the body of this email, type in your YouTube name, just like it shows up in YouTube. Also, in the body of the email, type in your email address, and number 3, tell us which practice exam you want, and you will get 90-day access to that particular one. So congratulations to you. No. All right, let's. That was fun. Let's do it again. Oh, I'm running way behind today. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to bring up another practice question. Ooh, this is a good question. Okay, guys, here is our next competition question. This time we're competing for a CompTIA voucher. Folks, depending on what exam you use, these vouchers can be worth up to $400. So with that attitude in mind, I tend to weight this towards the new people. So whoever answers this first, if you're an old geezer who's won a bunch of these, I don't want to just work for somebody who's building a collection of vouchers. It's not going to happen. I do this because I want people to come in and learn. So the bottom line is, if you're a newbie, you kind of get a little extra push on this one. That's not to say you old geezers can't compete. I'm just saying that it tends to be pushed more towards the newer people. So with that attitude in mind, this is a good question, very A+. Virtual machines provide the ability to do which of the following? Use less system memory, extend 32-bit machines to 64 bits, allow higher internet speeds, or share hardware resources. Okay, remember, do not type A, B, C, or D, folks. Type enough of this so I know what you're talking about, and let's see if we get a winner. And again, I think we got a winner, so what I'm doing right now is again, we keep a list of everybody who's won, so if you have not won before, you've got a much better shot. CompTIA does like some of their older stuff. There's no doubt about that. Bear with me, guys. The problem is it scrolls past so quickly, I don't want to accidentally miss somebody who was first. But bear with me. I think we have a winner, but let me... Okay. First of all, let's see what the right answer is. Oh, I left that thing up the entire time. Use less system memory. No, it's going to use the same amount of memory. Extend. Nope, doesn't do that. Share hardware resources. I'm pretty sure that's going to be right. Answer D is correct. Yay! Okay. So, share hardware resources is the right answer. And I'm pretty sure the winner this time is going to be Esteban Shafir, my favorite Argentinian. Esteban, congratulations to you. You have won a CompTIA voucher. Now, Esteban, in order to get that voucher, you got to jump through a couple of hoops. We don't make these rules, folks. But Esteban, in order to get this, you have to go through these hoops. Number one, Esteban, send an email to daver@totalsem.com. Esteban, in the body of the email, put your YouTube name, put your email address, put your exact name as on previous CompTIA certifications. If you've never had a CompTIA certification before, then use your formal name. Number four, put the country where you reside. And if you're a U.S. citizen, U.S. resident, put the state as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put the country where you will take the exam. Esteban, I don't think that's too much of a problem with you. You're in Argentina. You'll be taking in Argentina. And then last, your exact exam number. So if you want the A+, type in like A+ 220-1002. Don't just type in A+. Otherwise, we're not going to know what to send you. So, Esteban, congratulations to you. Well done, sir. Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is, okay, so we're going to be wrapping up. All right, so guys, that's about it for today. Listen, number one, if you have not installed VirtualBox in the past, please get it installed. Number two, get Ubuntu Desktop downloaded and get that installed. That's pretty easy. If you can find a copy of Windows to download and install, do that as well, although it's not super critical. I tend to be a Windows guy, so if I can use Windows, I will. And then last, we're going to actually, on Wednesday, do the installation of, Opensense on screen so you guys can see it. There's a couple of tricks in there. I want to make sure you guys get it right. And then number two, I'm going to show you how to tweak your virtual machines, your Windows virtual machines, all the virtual machines, so that they can accept all these different networks. It's stupid easy. And once you see it, you're going to be like, really? That's it? That's all I got to do? The answer is yes. So with that, congratulations to our winners for today. We will finally have a good router lab set up, and we'll be able to complete routers. And in the meantime, you guys get to be a part of the inside thinking of Mike Meyers, adult learning theory, tools and mechanisms and stuff like that. In the meantime, you get a shot at free vouchers and free practice questions. So I am out of here, folks. I will be talking to you all again soon. I will be getting on the Discord channel, assuming I can figure out how to get on it, which is still a bit of a question mark. And until then, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Start the downloading. Get that stuff downloaded and on your system so that we can move forward. I am out of here, folks. I will talk to you all again soon. Have a great day, and bye-bye.